So I figured I'd take advantage of this awesome weather this week and do my reflection outside. But this week at Practicum is kind of cool. The students did a story from their regular literature book. But the way that the teacher started it is what I really had fun seeing, because she really set up their background knowledge and developed their background knowledge. She started with talking about inventors that they knew. And I was sitting in kind of like the side of the classroom going, oh gosh, okay, inventors that I know. Okay, well, like Thomas Edison, Ben Franklin, and I completely went blank. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know any other inventors that I can think of. And here's these fifth graders, 10, 11-year-olds, and they're just rattling off all these people. And I was like, holy cow, how do you guys know all this? And I mean, I knew a lot of the names, but I just hadn't even thought of the fact that they were inventors too. So it was really neat to see that aspect of it and see these 11-year-olds coming up with all these inventors. And I thought that really showed their background knowledge too, in that they knew some of these inventors and knew what it meant to be an inventor. And it really played well into the story that they were reading, because it was about these fifth graders that were doing a science fair and developing this machine. And so the next thing that the teacher did before they started reading the story was do some background vocabulary and just see what the students knew vocabulary-wise. They did a lot with the word electrical. And I kind of wish she would have even broke that word down into just that base of electrical, and then seen what words the students could have come up with that use that word electric in it, and all the different forms of it and what those different words mean. Because I think there were some students that were even thinking of electrical engineers and electricity, and just how all those words connected. I think that would have been a really cool thing for the students to see. And I think it's really important for students to see how base words can really connect words and connect their meanings too. I think that kind of stems from all the work that I did with Latin, and just how interesting I find that, because a lot of our words come from Latin roots, and you can really develop meanings and understandings of meanings if you understand those Latin roots. So I think that's kind of cool. But anyways, back to Practicum. Once they did that vocabulary, then they actually went into the story, and they read it as a group, or at least the first half they read as a group. The teacher read some, students read some, and then she let the students read the rest of it on their own. And it was kind of like a play almost, because it had a lot more dialogue in it than a normal narrated story would. It was more of a dialogue story. And I don't think students had really been introduced to that at all. So it's kind of interesting to see them take on that reading. And talking of concepts of print, it was really cool to see them understand that you don't read the stuff in parentheses that's usually italicized, because that's like the stage direction or the prop direction that you give. It's not something that you read out loud, it's just something that you have to understand while you're reading what the character is saying. So I thought that was kind of cool for them to go over, and it connects to that concepts of print that we've been talking about within a dialogue or a script instead of a narrated story. After students finished reading, then they got to do this activity where they got to design their own machine, or just their own invention in general. So some students they had to draw a picture, name it, color the picture, and even write a summary of what it was. And it was so cool to see some of the students who were obviously more creative than some of the other ones, just so ready to jump in and do that activity. And they went crazy with it. They knew exactly what they were designing. And I was that student in school that was like, oh my gosh, I totally don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what to design for this. But a lot of them were able to do it, and I was trying to think of how I could help students figure out what they could design, but none of them really needed it. They were all creative enough to take advantage of that creativity time they had been given and the freedom to just design their own machine. So I thought that was really cool in how they were connecting that story to themselves and to what they wanted to design and be creative with it. So overall, it was a good week at Practicum.